What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Y'all let me know something right off the top down in the comments. Don't you just love that feeling of vindication when somebody comes out and agrees with something that you've been arguing for a while and everybody was telling you, no, you're nuts, no, you're delusional, no, you're in a cult, no, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you're just an idiot. Why don't you shut your mouth and sit down and be quiet because silence is violence and blah, 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 blah. And then once you get the news and it comes down the pipeline and you realize appeals court tosses judge's contempt finding against Trump administration in prison deportations, you freaking realize that, oh my goodness, I was right this entire time. And every single one of those people out there that said you were wrong are just a big bag of idiots, if you will. That's what we'll call them. We'll go with a big bag of idiots. They remind me of Weekend at Bernie's for some reason. I don't know why, but that just came to my mind. It's just because you have to be an idiot to try to parade around a corpse. Wait, hang on just a second.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
What must be what? I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America.
Does that sound familiar to anybody? It kind of sounds like the last 4 years, don't it? Let's get into this, y'all. A split appeals court panel tossed out a judge's contempt finding against President Donald Trump's administration on Friday in a case over deportations to an El Salvador prison. The decision comes after planes carrying Venezuelan migrants. By the way, that's a lie already. They were not migrants. They were Tren de Aragua members and gang members, MS-13 members. So these people were not migrants, by the way. These people were criminal aliens that were only here to conduct criminal activity in this country. They were not here to contribute to society, pay their taxes, buy insurance, get a job, rent a house, and do all the things that a good upstanding citizen would do. Those people were not doing any of those things. Well, maybe they were renting a house, maybe, but they weren't doing any of the other things that a member of that you would want to be in society, contributing to that society. They were doing none of those things. These people were just here to conduct criminal activity. That's it, folks. You can't call those people a migrant, because migrants move from somewhere to somewhere else and set up a life and build a life in that new place. They get a job. They contribute to whatever civilization that they move to, whatever society, whatever culture. They integrate into that culture. They make friends. They go to church. They do all these other things, right? They conduct themselves admirably for the most part. That's what a migrant does. By the way, start a business. Send your kids to school. That's what migrants do. Migrants do not move from some crime-laden third world scumhole, if you will. I'm trying to be nice a little bit. I know doesn't sound nice, but I'm being nice. Moving from some crap hole, if you will, to the United States, to bring that crap hole to the United States, to conduct their criminal activities in the United States. That is not somebody that you can consider to be a migrant. There is no proof, there is no evidence that those people migrated to the United States. Just because you have a warm body within the United States does not mean that they are here to migrate and live peacefully and in harmony in the society in which they find themselves. Right, there's no evidence of that, but yet the Associated Press told you that these are Venezuelan migrants. There is no evidence to prove that, as a matter of fact. Anyway, the Venezuelan migrants landed at the prison even after U.S. District Judge James E. Boasberg said in court they must return to the United States. Okay, so that was all just manipulation right there. First, they lied to you and told you these are migrants, and then they told you, oh, Orange Man is evil over here because he denied court orders. That is a conclusory statement coming from the Associated Press, when the headline of the news article was appeals court judge says no, says otherwise. They did not commit contempt of court. But that's what they just told you, folks. Oh yeah, U.S. Boasberg said in court they must return to the United States. Yeah, he said it in court, but for one, this is all, like I said, this is all manipulation. For one, it was not in his written order. For two, he was trying to order planes that were over international waters to turn around. He does not have that authority, folks. Like I said, vindication. And the appeals court agrees once again. Anyway, let's keep going with the rest of the manipulation, if you will. Boasberg found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt of court. The ruling marked a dramatic battle between the judicial and executive branches of government. But the divided three-judge panel in the nation's capital found that Boasberg had exceeded his authority and intruded on the executive branch's foreign affairs powers. That is right. Like I said, vindication, folks. This judge does not have the authority to tell a military airplane over international waters. As a matter of fact, come to find out, by the time that the pilot received the order from the judge, call him a judge, he's just an activist in a robe, if you will, but by the time they received the orders, they were 3 minutes out from landing in El Salvador. They were on final approach. You're not going to turn the plane around at that point. That would violate landing procedures. As a matter of fact, I do believe, right? Flight plans and all that stuff, right? Like, all of this ignores flight plans. You cannot just tell a plane to turn around and come back. They have to adhere to the flight plan. Like, for the most part, right? There's emergencies. I wouldn't really consider that an emergency. Now, you could make the argument that, yeah, sure, they could have landed, kept everybody on the plane, and turned around and came back. But, once again, I would make the argument, how do we know that this was a valid order? Because, like I said, the judge did not give the order in writing. It was a verbal command, plus, he kind of exceeded his authority. The Supreme Court found, later down the road, mind you, that this judge should not have even had this case in the first place. They made a decision to move this case out of Boasberg's court, and guess what he does? Okay, fine, sure, whatever. And he moved forward with the criminal contempt proceedings anyway, right? He got rid of that case, but he kept his criminal contempt proceedings because, like I said, he's an activist in a robe and he's deranged with Donald Trump. This is the very guy that said outright that he has the same power that the president has. As a matter of fact, he said we have co-equal branches and I have just as much power as he does. That's not verbatim, by the way. That's just roundabout what he said. I can't remember his exact quote, so I'm not going to exactly quote him on this. But you get the point. The guy's deluded as hell, if you ask me. That's just my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with the news. Judges Gregory Katsas and Naomi Ryle, both of whom were nominated by Trump in his first term in the White House. Why did they throw that in there, in the White House? Agreed with the unsigned majority opinion. Trump in his first term in the White House. Like, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Why do they do that? Like, it's all for fluff, but it's nonsensical, if you will. Of course, if the guy is the freaking president in his first term, of course he's going to be in the White House. The district court's order attempts to control the executive branch's conduct of foreign affairs in an area in which a court's power is at its lowest ebb, Rao wrote. That is right. So, court's powers, they do have ebbs and they do have flows, folks. Goes up and down, in and out, back and forth. Shimmy to the left and shimmy a little bit to the right. Judge Cornelia Pillard, who was appointed by President Barack Obama, dissented. The majority does an exemplary judge a grave disservice by overstepping its bounds to append his effort to vindicate the judicial authority that is our shared trust, she wrote. Is that not what an appellate circuit is for, by the way? Like, think about these judges. They are so Trump deranged that they cannot even think that that statement right there is nonsensical. Because this is the entire existence for the appellate court. To either uphold a lower court's decision or to overturn that decision. I mean, think about it. Listen to what she said. It's a grave disservice by overstepping its bounds to upend his effort to vindicate the judicial authority that is our shared trust. That is what the appellate, right? There's an even higher court called the Supreme Court that will do that to the appellate court, that will also upend their authority and shared trust. Like these judges, is that your legal argument here? That a higher court overturned the decision of a lower court? Like, I'm not a legal expert, but that's nonsensical to me. That's your whole reason for dissenting? Sure, you can't make some argument that he has the authority to tell these planes that are on final approach to turn around and come back, that are in another sovereign national government's airspace? I'm just saying. The 250 criminals have since been released back to their home country in a prisoner swap with the U.S. after months at the mega prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, or CCOT. Boasberg had accused Trump administration officials of rushing deportees out of the U.S. under the Alien Enemies Act before they could challenge their removal in court, and then willfully disregarded his order that planes already in the air should return. That is fascinating. That's a very, very fascinating statement right there, because in the Constitution, under the Alien Enemies Act, these people do not get any sort of due process. They get picked up and expeditiously deported. That is what the Alien Enemies Act is. That is what the language states. And then he, right here, Boasberg, once again, that makes absolutely no sense, because Boasberg had accused Trump administration officials of rushing deportees out of the U.S. under the Alien Enemies Act before they could challenge their removal in court. Do I have to go get... Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go get the Alien Enemies Act and pop it up right here. Let's read. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is a U.S. federal law that grants the president authority to detain, relocate, or deport non-citizens from a country the U.S. is at war with, or when a foreign nation or government perpetrates, attempts, or threatens an invasion or predatory incursion against U.S. territory. Enacted as part of the Alien and Sedition Acts during tensions with France, the quasi-war, it remains in effect today, codified at 50 U.S.C. 21 through 24. Unlike the other acts, it has no expiration date and is the only one still active. Key provisions. Scope. Applies to natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of a hostile nation or government, specifically males, amended in 1918 to be gender neutral, aged 14 and older, who are not naturalized U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. Presidential powers. The president can issue a proclamation to apprehend, restrain, secure, or remove these individuals as alien enemies without a hearing based solely on their nationality or origin. Conditions and invocation. Can be used during a declared war by Congress or when the president determines there is an invasion or predatory incursion by a foreign nation or government. So, folks, that is exactly what Donald Trump invoked. The judge said, oh, but they didn't get a chance to challenge. They don't get a chance without a hearing. Did you hear that part? That is a key part of this. They do not get any sort of challenge in our courts because they are not immigrants. Once again, these people are not immigrants. They came here, broke our laws to get here. It's all very fascinating, y'all, but let's keep going. The Trump administration has denied any violation, saying the judge's directive to return the planes was made verbally in court, but not included in his written order. Last month, the Justice Department filed an unusual judicial misconduct complaint against Boasberg over comments he allegedly made at a closed-door meeting of judges, as well as his actions in the deportations case. The complaint calls for the case to be taken away from Boasberg while an investigation proceeds. Attorney General Pam Bondi celebrated the appeals court ruling, calling it a major victory defending President Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act in a social media post and vowing to continue fighting and winning in court. Lee Gallant, an American Civil Liberties Union attorney who represented the migrants, they weren't migrants, the criminal aliens, or the alien enemies, if you will, said there was zero ambiguity in Boasberg's order about the planes. Yeah, but it wasn't valid, my dude. Oh, he forgot to mention that. It was a completely invalid or illegal order. We strongly disagree with today's decision regarding contempt and are considering all options going forward, he said. Go right ahead. I can guarantee you, if that appellate panel said no, the Supreme Court is also gonna say no. I can guarantee that, folks. But, I love being vindicated. And you can be vindicated as well, because I imagine you guys probably felt the same way and maybe made some of the same arguments that this is all nonsense. There was no criminal contempt because it was an invalid order. That whole case was invalid. It should have never been in federal court anyway. Why? Because it was supposedly immigrants, right? So that should have been an immigration case. That should have been in immigration court. But it wasn't because of the derangement of the left. And they know that they'll lose in immigration court because all of those people were deemed criminals. Every single freaking one of them, including Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was found to have had enough evidence against them that these 4 immigration judges agreed that he is a threat and should not be released on bond because he's an MS-13 gang member. That is why he was deported in the first place. But, this is all very fascinating, and I'm loving the wins, folks. Like I said, all these court cases, they will eventually get overturned for the most part, right? Like all the good ones, at least the ones that make no sense why we are even in court, these are all going to get overturned. And it's hard to say on some of the other stuff. Trump may win, Trump may not win, but you push the boundaries of what you can do as the president. This is called fighting to save your country, folks. And that is exactly what Trump is doing right now. All of his actions, some of it I don't like. Most of it I do. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm kind of a partisan guy, right? I'm not going to try to hide that fact. I'm going to be completely open. I'm kind of a partisan guy. I'm sure you could just listen to my opinions and figure that out quite easily. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here, and share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That would be lovely. And if you also could, click that join button, y'all. You know you want to. But y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.